I'm going to talk about revenue generation and how we're going to support it from the OE Program Office. If you think about what we have done together as a campus, all of the people in this room, all of the staff and faculty and the students of the university over the last few years within operational excellence, we really have accomplished a tremendous amount. If you think about the procurement project, we fused procurement operations with UCSF. I can see just over there. We instituted the online purchasing system, Bearbuy. We've saved tens of millions of dollars collectively in that pursuit. If you think about Cal Planning, we completely revised the financial system of the university. We have the first all-funds budget for the campus. If you think about the energy management project, we have a way of incentivizing savings on the energy bills, as well as helping the campus to achieve greenhouse gas emission targets. If you think about the blanket software license purchases that we have made for the campus and the transition to BMail and to BCal, we really have accomplished a tremendous amount. And the idea behind repurposing the OE Program Office to help enable unit-level entrepreneurialism is to build on all of those capabilities that we have put together over the last years. What kinds of capabilities do we have in the program office? Well, we know how to formulate a good proposal. We know how to build a successful team to implement a project. We know how to manage the investments from a line of credit in order to implement a project. We know how to track the finances. We know how to do the change management. We know how to handle communications for big, complicated projects. And so the idea now is to add the enabling of unit-level entrepreneurialism to all of the things that we do. So I'm going to talk about the refashioning of the OE Program Office in order to do that. So here's a picture of the life cycle for revenue generation. We begin at the top of the figure, exploring opportunities. We'll do a little bit of that later today in our structured exercise, which I hope you will enjoy. An idea for a project really has to be circulated among a group of people, and lots of people have to weigh in order to strengthen that idea, strengthen the value proposition, make the idea more robust and resilient. And so we'll have organized a resource pool of people who we will tap to help units develop and strengthen their ideas. Next, after generating and strengthening ideas, we want to design the offering and assess the market. So an individual idea is going to be only as strong as the market depth that we have identified for that idea. We're about generating revenue here in this part of our work, and so we'll be focusing carefully on what the offering is, the product or service that you're planning on making available, and then who it is who will be providing the interest to buy. So after that, we have to create a plan, test and refine the approach. And so there will be a formal proposal process which will allow your ideas to come up for review and possibly be awarded funding from the campus in order to pursue. And then once we have approved projects, we will build and deliver on those projects. As I mentioned, we're experts in the program office in helping you staff up a team and create an effort aimed at implementing something. So all of this is going to be monitored and adjusted in conjunction with the program office, and that's the cycle of continuous improvement, essentially that we've used for OE projects, but now we'll be using for revenue-generating projects. It's important to say that not all ideas are going to progress to the state of full funding and implementable projects. There is a quote by Linus Pauling: if you want to have a good idea, it's important to have a lot of ideas. In other words, not all ideas are successful. And so there are going to be gated reviews along the way to make sure that this is something we still want to pursue. And to that end, also, we will empanel a group of campus experts, the functional experts in numerous areas who will help us understand contract or legal ramifications, HR ramifications, and so forth, so that we're fully cognizant of what it will take to have a successful proposal. Now, in order to go from the idea to the proposal development process, there are these main categories: explore and generating an idea, optimizing the design and offering that I described before, creating the implementable plan that goes up for review, and then in the lower left of the figure you can see there's a go or no-go funding decision. I'll talk in a moment about the financial resources that we're going to make available to you to put in place your projects. But the go-no-go funding decision will go before the Operational Excellence Executive Committee, just as OE projects have done in the past. And we have two members of the OE Executive Committee here today, George Breslauer and John Wilton, as well as myself, and Chancellor will be included in that group as well. And then once projects are funded, then we focus on delivering and monitoring. Now, I want to emphasize that the go-no-go funding decision doesn't replace other kinds of approvals that might be required depending on the sort of project that we're talking about. For example, we might be talking about a professional degree program that is of the self-supporting program variety. In that case, there are still academic senate approvals that need to be sought and obtained for degree program. So the go-no-go funding decision is about the project part. This figure goes into some more detail about the process to go from an idea to a project which is undertaken. So we really begin with an initial idea which has embedded within it a germ of a value proposition, and this is really what we'll be focusing on a little later today. In the design section of this figure, as somebody interested in proposing a project, you would come to the OEPO and we would help you to identify the resources and expertise that you're going to need to strengthen that idea and develop a full proposal. So we'll work on defining what it is that you're offering, the product or service that you're wishing to put into place. We will think about the kinds of market analysis that need to be undertaken, and we'll have already coordinated a number of different opportunities there. It could be a market analysis by a handful of MBA students from the Haas Business School next door, or it could be that we contract with an outside firm to do something which is more extensive. We'll also have to think at this stage carefully about the degree to which your project idea is in alignment with the mission, purpose, and values of the campus, or at least supports that mission, purpose, and value for the campus. And then we'll think much more detail about exactly how the work is going to be undertaken. So we'll create an implementable plan. We'll do that market analysis, develop financial plans, a business plan for the project. We'll think carefully about the risks involved, the risk that the project fails, the risk that the project leads to other problems that you might not foresee at first. And then we'll also be very careful to spell out any expectations that the unit proposing the project or the campus providing the funding or other third parties might have in terms of the expectations of how this will all work out. Then there is the go-no-go decision. There will be other approvals to seek in the case of self-supporting programs. I mentioned that example. The funding will be set up. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And if there are any side agreements or conditions that need to be attached to the project, we'll take care of those as well before finally setting up the project team and implementing your proposal. So at this stage there will be still lots of monitoring of the project and making sure that we stay on track with the financial considerations and also the calendar of activities. So there are lots of things to focus on in order to develop a good project that can move all the way through to completion. We think that it's in the campus's best interest to be a little bit careful about all of this, but also to maintain very strongly the stance that we want to enable the units in order to undertake these projects. So this is all intended to be a help to you. And in fact, the OE Program Office and the campus in general and the units share an interest in these projects being successful, because after all, nobody wants to lose on their investments. John didn't mention it before, but if we have any failed projects 5 years from now, he's informed me privately that all of the losses will come out of my salary. So I have an extremely tight focus on generating revenue here. So let's talk a little bit about the finances. We imagine that we'll have several entities investing in any given project. So first of all, the OE Program Office will act as the broker for campus funds and loans. You may not know, but all of the OE projects have been funded thus far by a zero interest loan from the Office of the President. And that has all been managed by the OE Program Office. So we'd secure another loan, hopefully at reasonable terms, from the Office of the President in conjunction with Aaron Gore, who just injected some sardonic laughter. And those funds then would be available for project implementation and startup costs. Units also, who are proposing the projects, will contribute some of the funding as well. We think it's important that the units have some skin in the game, so to speak, because then we all share in a mutual appreciation of the benefits of success. And then finally, there might be external partners who are interested in joining in on the project. You may have some alumni from your school or college who are interested in helping you to achieve some financial goal, and they may provide some of the startup funds for your project. Then once the project is up and running, you can see that it generates a lot of revenue. That's the big green box on the left. But we're interested in projects that develop net revenue, not just revenue. Yeah, there's a difference, and I want to focus on that difference for just a moment. So if we imagine the green box being the revenue earned by the project, maybe the increased ticket sales in the ticketing example, we also have to remember that there are expenses associated with the generation of that revenue. So we have direct operating costs, the salaries of the people who work in the upgraded ticketing office, the computer system upgrade that we needed to make in order to do the ticketing office, and so forth. Those are direct operating costs. We also have overhead costs. You may be setting up something which is subject to the administrative full costing overhead rate of 7%, or the self-supporting degree program overhead rate, which is 15%. So there may be overhead costs associated with your individual project. And then, of course, if there are campus loan funds that come to fund your startup and implementation costs, we'll have to account for the repayment of those. So once all of those figures in red are subtracted from the revenue, we're left with net revenue. So when we say we want projects that generate net revenue, that's what we're focusing on. In the fullness of time, the campus loan is repaid, of course, and so the net revenue then maybe will jump up. So how is the net revenue distributed? Well, first and foremost, our goal is to distribute as much as possible of it back to the units. We've had this philosophy in operational excellence. You will remember for the very trying unit restructuring project right at the start of OE, which was when I came into that office 2.5 years ago, we set up the division of the proceeds, the savings from unit restructuring, so that 40% came to the center, which we used to repay the loan to the Office of the President that funds all the OE projects. 60% remained in the units. And then with essentially all the other projects, all of the savings remains local. It's not coming to the center. In the same way here, by far the most important thing to do is distribute revenue back to the units, because that will keep you incentivized to have other wonderful project ideas. There may be revenue that flows to others depending on contractual agreements, and those are things that we would spell out at the beginning. For example, if you have a loan from 3 of your alumni, in order to help with setup costs, there may be some funds that flow back to them. So, I'm now going to turn over the podium to Catherine Mitchell, who is known to many of you. She's been working with the OE Program Office now for several years and has been invaluable in helping us to get started in some critical ways.